Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now we're taking a look here today at Theta, which is a highly recommended request from my patrons. So thank you so much for recommending I cover this. I'm more than happy to do so, and I really appreciate all of your support. Also note, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research. Always take ownership of your own trades. And the best thing to do is to learn as much as you can so you can be a better trader. My goal is to help you do that, of course. So if you stick around, you'll probably learn a thing or two. I try to explain, the intricacies of trading and obviously make sure you learn what you can because I want you to trade for a lifetime, not just for one day. Now, if you like to do a little bit more autopilot, I do share my trades with my community members. Feel free to reference that in the description below for my Patreon account. But I do also have a Telegram community too. You can learn a lot there as well. Check that out in your own time. But everything you're going to learn here today, I implore in my Signal group there to ensure that we have a high success rate, really close to about 80% overall at this point in time. All right, so without further ado, why don't we just go ahead and check it out? Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Theta. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on. So if you're new to the channel, we always look at the 4-hour charts on both just to ensure we know, big picture, make an informed decision because any good trader will understand all angles. And Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two largest coins. So we need to make sure we understand that. So looking here at Bitcoin, first of all, this is TradingView.com desktop application. I recommend the paid version just based on the simple fact that you get more than 2 indicators at a time. I go through a lot of different indicators here personally. So, to me, to make a well-informed decision, you kind of need to look at each time frame and then specific indicators for those. I'll explain what I mean by that here in a moment. But first off, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin. This is a 4-hour chart again. And we're really just taking a quick look at a couple of things here. First of all, we're going to enable the simple moving averages. Those are essentially what the industry leaders are utilizing to make decisions, right? To ensure that we understand specifically what we're getting into, we need to know what they're looking at as well, right? So on this chart here, first of all, we got the two simple moving averages. The 200 is this purple line, and the 50 is the orange. The price right now, presently, is above the 50-day simple moving average. It blew through that in only 4 hours. I think it actually technically went through there in 1 hour because it was such a fast increase that just it all happened so quick, which is really good. That's a good sign. I, in fact, had an open position that I had for my Signal group here, and I tell you what, that it took a few days, but it came right back up and ramped up, and we took some profits. It's really nice. But regardless of the fact, looking at Bitcoin right now, you can see that it's well above 40,000. And the next major milestone is essentially 42,500. So I had some charts drawn up here recently. In other words, there's a channel of 40 to 42,500 and also 37 to 40,000. That's this range here. It was stuck under 40 for a while, but it broke above. Now it closed above and is holding above now. So that's currently a support level. It's a stronger support now too because it was tested multiple times in the recent past, so causing it to essentially work as a stronger support. But the bulls fought back today and had a pretty good rally. It was really nice. Big picture, we're also looking at 30,000 for the support level, but the next major milestone for Bitcoin is 42,500. We'll see if we can break that here in the next couple of days. That could happen, but there's a lot of, just keep in mind, there's a lot of momentum today, and there's a strong chance that, even though it does have a little bit left in the tank, it was, overextended essentially in a lot of ways. If you look at shorter time frames and just generally speaking, Bitcoin performed really well. And with this ramp up, what was that? That is essentially just say, in 8 hours, it went almost 9%. Again, that's an approximate, but that's a lot of price action. So I would venture to guess we're going to see some sideways action for a little bit. It may come back down to test 40,000. And then if it tests and holds for just say 4 hours, that would be a good consideration for entry. I'm going to go ahead and make sure to look at that myself personally. So I got some indicators set up or some alarms set up so that way I can be notified for my Signal group. Okay, so again, just something to pay attention to. Be aware of how Bitcoin responds to 40,000. Moving on to Ethereum. Now we had the fork today. I forget what London fork I think it was referred to as. I'm probably butchering that, but that happened right here. So you can see this is a pretty big movement. Unfortunately, it happened just before I woke up this morning. Otherwise, I would have caught that and sent out a signal for that too. But Ethereum took off, and it's doing very well with the news of just that ERC20, right? So it's got some pretty good stuff going for it. So just be prepared for this to test 2,900, which is a major resistance level. It was tested about 10 times previously, and hopefully we can get a test here soon. And if it breaks above We're talking it's going to be open season for Ethereum to continue to ramp up closer to 4,000. Will it hit 4,000? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think eventually it will, of course. If Bitcoin can, start breaching, 42.5 upwards of just say closer to 50,000, for sure. Yeah, it's easy for Ethereum to take off. Because again, even though Ethereum is moving fairly independent of Bitcoin right now, it's still reliant on its success. And if Bitcoin drops to 30,000, doesn't matter how good the news is for Ethereum, it's still going to drop as well, right? So just keep that in mind. That's why we always look at Ethereum and Bitcoin first to get a baseline, right? Moving on to Theta. Here's Theta, and what we do is we look at the one-day chart first, quickly identify the average true range, then move our way down for the time frame. So the average true range for Theta, just kind of loosely picking out of a hat. Again, this is based on Bitcoin doing well before it sold off, right? So just to get its average true range, the best thing to do is to look at its previous time frame. In other words, before Bitcoin sold off, which was April 17th, that's this sell-off here with a ramp back up, and then of course Elon candle and China candle here, right? But all that aside, Theta was averaging for almost a full, 3 weeks. It was averaging between $11 and $14. Okay, so that's its true range based on Bitcoin being stable, right? Being 60 to 50,000. Now Bitcoin's at 40,000 right now and some change, of course, and we're much lower than that. But generally speaking, if Bitcoin creeps up closer to 50, then we're going to see the previous support, which is about 11. Again, I'm just pulling this out of a hat, but generally speaking, that was a major support level for a little while, right around 1125. And we would see that as a potential resistance if Bitcoin gets closer to 50,000. For right now, we're ways off from that, of course. It takes a little while for things to ramp back up with all the downward action recently, but good news is the lowest point in which Theta will go is $3.66. So that was the previous all-time low, again, minus last year, of course, but generally speaking, well, that's not last year, sorry, that was March, but, minus the fact that Theta did very well after March, that was the lowest point here recently, okay? So that's good news. It basically just means we shouldn't see it go any lower. And today's price action is pretty interesting, but I'm not all that surprised because if we look at this, the moving averages here, the 50 was broken through. It's very common for the simple moving average on the one-day chart to get broken hard and fast. And that's what happened there. The next major milestone is the 200, and we'll see what happens there. And there's a strong chance that will be broken soon if Bitcoin can continue its momentum from today, right? But again, Bitcoin drops dead on us and drops, sub 37,000. We should expect Theta to come down and start testing its previous supports, which is right around, I would say, $5.58, because that was a pretty steady price action for the last 8 to 10 days. We had a strong convergence back here on the 22nd of July. That is when Bitcoin ramped up to 30,000 from sub 30,000. So no surprise there. Not much else to extract on the one-day chart. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour chart now. And the 4-hour chart is interesting to me because we are above both moving averages. That's great. That's a good type of quality here. As you can see, the 200 is working as a really strong support level too. It's been tested multiple times, and now the 50 as well. So moving forward, good news is the price will likely continue upwards based on the 50-day simple moving average working as a support. We've also got a strong convergence on the 3rd of August, so let's go ahead and mark that really quick. Go ahead and see kind of what took place there. A bad line. There we go. Yeah, because I want to kind of look at this on a shorter time frame. I like to look at the convergence on the 4-hour chart and see how it translates to the 1-hour chart for the Ichimoku cloud. They're oftentimes an overlay. They work well together because they're both good indications of long positions. Obviously, you can do a short position too, don't get me wrong, but I mean like a length of time, in other words, a swing trade that you're going to hold on for a long period of time. That's a case in point where the MACD on the 4-hour chart and the 1-hour Ichimoku are both very good at identifying. But other than that, honestly, not much else to really note here. Let's see if there's any. We did pass a previous resistance of 683, so the next major would be right around 695. So we do have a resistance at about 695. Let's go ahead and mark that here. So just keep that in mind. That is a potential resistance. It could continue to hold the price down, or it might just blow through there. We'll see. But as we can see, obviously, it's tested it twice and rejected so far. And on the 1-hour chart, here's what we look at. If you're new to the channel, always enable the Ichimoku cloud. And the cloud is awesome because it helps us understand entry signals and exit signals. In other words, buy signal when the price is above the cloud, sell signal when it's below. So if you're planning to go long, you would buy when it goes above the cloud. If you're planning to short, you go below. It's pretty darn consistent for the most part. Obviously, in periods of consolidation here, it can be a little choppy, but when there's breakouts like this, for example, you can see how the cloud actually works as a support level, and it keeps the price up, right? So this could very well happen in the near future here. It's hard to say. The price went up so quick that it hasn't had a chance to catch up with the cloud. But here's the cool thing. Take a look at this this mark that I'd left. This is from the 4-hour chart. Again, it's kind of an approximate. It's plus or minus a few hours. But generally speaking, we've got about 4 or 5 hours after the MACD had indicated a buy signal on the 4-hour chart when it broke through and went above the Ichimoku cloud. So this would have been a second iteration of the fact that we want to take entry. Okay, so we got a reiteration of the first signal from the MACD on the Ichimoku cloud, kind of telling us this is a good point to entry. Okay, so just something to pay attention to and to look at, because if you don't look at these things here, then you can miss a lot of opportunity. But also, more importantly, it helps give confirmation knowing you're on the right side of the tracks. And what I mean by that, excuse me, is simply put, when you're above the cloud, consider it a buy signal, and you're on the track, you're on the same page as the bulls. Right, you're riding the momentum with the bulls. If you're on the bottom, it's the bearish trend, so to speak. Obviously, depending what kind of entry you're taking will determine which side you want to take. But for lack of better terms, it helps you understand that you're on the right and heading in the right direction. Because why try to swim upstream? I give that analogy all the time. You may as well just cruise downstream and just float all the way, right? Instead of wasting all the energy and the effort trying to go uphill, or upstream, so to speak. So just kind of an analogy there. Let's go ahead and take a look at TD sequential next. And this is an interesting one here, but if you're unfamiliar with it, it basically just helps us identify states of exhaustion. So in other words, on this bull run, which has had short periods of consolidation in between, this most recent one from right here, you can see it's counting from a 1 all the way to a 9. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 candles afterwards. So 7 hours of exhaustion. So we're basically in overtime for the bulls. So I would say it's safe to say, with the resistance being at about 695, that we're going to start seeing a retracement, or at least some sideways action for some time. And it probably will last at least another 12 to 15 hours based on its history, because as you can see, it's doing this staircase pattern, which is actually a very good type of bull run. We like to see this on bull runs, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at there. We want to see it continue out. All right, so that's just kind of something to note on the 1-hour chart. TD sequential is really good to identify exhaustion. And of course, the Ichimoku cloud helps us understand a buy signal that we are on the right side of the track. So we're looking good right now still for a long position, except for the fact that we want to see some consolidation before the price increases again, because without that, it could very well retrace and we'd lose all of our potential profit by doing so, in which it would be important for the price to continue sideways for some time. Let's go ahead and take a look at the EMA and VWAP indication here. And first of all, just to note, EMA is exponential moving average. I use the 15 on the 15-minute chart. I've noticed the 15 works better than the 9 and the 20, because that's the default figures that you're typically given. I just like to have one indicator instead of two. That's my personal opinion, but it works very well. As you can see here, it is working as a support, right? So it's working essentially at driving the price up, and the bulls are in complete control. Even right here, when we lost EMA and VWAP, it didn't break below for too long. It stayed above and did very well. Furthermore, we also have the VWAP line, which is the blue line here. That's more of a day trading tool. You can still use it as a swing trader. In fact, I use it all the time for both, but it's helpful to understand what side of the scales you're on. If your price is above the VWAP, then it's considered basically a support level. If it's below, it's considered a resistance. So the VWAP is essentially a volume weighted average price. It takes the volume of the last 24 hours and expresses it as a price. And right now, at this point in time, $6.42 would be the price, or should be the price based on the volume, again, which is an undervalued metric, and it's currently hovering upwards of about $6.95. So that's a variance of about 8%. It's getting close to the overextended side, so just keep that in mind too. If it goes any higher, there is a chance it could come crashing back down. I wouldn't say it'll crash completely, but I do think that there's a good chance that this little chunk right here could be cut in half, because commonly most retracements in crypto, based on how fast and volatile the markets can be, is a common retracement of anywhere between 60 to 40%. So commonly split the difference of just say 50. So if we're to kind of go with a rough estimate here, I would say 650 would be the next support level here if the price were to come retracing back down. Okay. Those are kind of just the things that I go off of. And the Fibonacci retracement tool will reiterate this too. You have those different levels. And traditionally, that's pretty darn close to what it would be. I think it's in fact just a little bit higher. But the reason why it's beneficial is because you'd be able to sell before it gets to that point. And unfortunately, well, fortunate too, but unfortunately, the Fibonacci retracement tool is commonly used as well. So obviously, you want to make sure to utilize that here. But that's kind of where the number matches up. So that's kind of what I want to look at here. So, I mean, big picture, I would say for Theta, first of all, is the price is still very affordable, price is still very low. It should be somewhere in the range of anywhere between 11 to 14. Bear in mind that was when Bitcoin was 50 to 60,000. Okay. With it being down, just say sub 50,000 or just over 40, we want to keep in mind that we got this big gap here that could be filled and it could go on a bull run if Bitcoin can break 42,500. So my thing here is that, depending on how Bitcoin performs, will determine if Theta goes on another bull run or not. It obviously was able to unleash today based on the massive volume. I mean, what we saw, I think it was close to 9% in just 8 hours alone for Bitcoin today. So, pretty strong ramp up. And I would say that Theta has that potential. We just need to see another run from Bitcoin, but I would speculate that the price will kind of stay stagnant. It'll probably go sideways and or retrace, and then possibly break this resistance of 695 if Bitcoin gets closer to 42,500. Yeah. So just something to pay attention to. So set some alerts on Bitcoin, kind of see when the price action jumps closer to, just say maybe set 42,000. Once that happens, take a look at Theta, consider taking entry, but use everything you just learned here today and look at everything in the big picture. Make sure we're above the Ishimoku cloud. TD sequential doesn't indicate an exhaustion, but I do feel like we're going to have to see some sideways action for at least a couple of days before Theta takes off again, just based on the simple way in which cryptocurrency evolves, right? We don't want it to retrace. In order for it to not retrace, we want to see some sideways action. And that being said, that's pretty much everything I have here for you today. Please feel free to reference my Telegram community, great group of folks there, and obviously my Patreon account where I share my trades each and every time I take them with my community, and you can have access to that as well. I'm hovering right around about 78% right now based on all the metrics here so far, even with the craziness of the sub 30,000 with Bitcoin, which was crazy. Glad to have that behind us. All right, thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next video. You take care now.